The woman across from him wore a smile that could stop hearts and a red dress that cost more than most people's annual salary. When the waitress set down the silver-domed dish and a folded note slipped beneath Nikolai Volkov's menu, everything he thought he knew shattered in an instant. But when 6 armed men positioned themselves outside the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, he understood exactly why the person you trust most can become your deadliest enemy. 30 seconds. 1 impossible choice, and a question nobody could answer. Who do you believe when the woman you love hands you to your assassins? If you believe loyalty should be earned through actions, not just words, hit subscribe. Only people who betray trust for personal gain won't. Nikolai the architect. Volkov sat in Maison Vermilion, irritated beyond measure. He needed this evening to be perfect, flawless. The reservations confirmed for 8, he'd told his security chief earlier that day. I want everything locked down. His head of operations had raised an eyebrow. Boss, your requirements are unusual. Full perimeter security at a civilian restaurant? Background checks on every server? You won't find many establishments willing to accommodate that. Then find one that will. I already did. Maison Vermilion. Old money. Old discretion. They understand privacy. But there's a concern. His lieutenant had pressed. The venue has multiple access points. Kitchen staff turnover is high. We can't guarantee. Forget it. Nikolai had snapped. I'm not letting paranoia ruin this. Dahlia deserves one normal evening. Just external surveillance. Nothing inside. But deep down, he knew a normal didn't exist in his world. Not anymore. Across the dining room, Vesper Rain was being tested again. Table 15, the floor manager said, checking his watch. That's the Volkov reservation. VIP treatment, absolute discretion. You've worked here 3 years, Vesper. I'm trusting you with this. Vesper said nothing. Her hands didn't shake as she arranged the silver service on her tray. This place had been her sanctuary. Actor, the forming, her safe harbor, since Nikolai's men had pulled her from that nightmare 3 years ago. Her mentor's voice echoed in her memory. Stay invisible, Vesper. The moment you're noticed is the moment you're vulnerable. Silence keeps you breathing. Easy for him to say. He wasn't carrying a debt that couldn't be measured in money or years. He hadn't watched armed traffickers drag girls into shipping containers while guards counted cash and laughed. Vesper was broke in every way that mattered, broke from memories, from fear, from running. And tonight, she was running out of options. Because 10 minutes ago, she'd recognized 3 faces through the service entrance. Faces that moved with the controlled precision of professionals preparing for violence. If you think people deserve a second chance, subscribe. You may not know the cost of betrayal until it's too late. Boss, there's something off about the perimeter. Nikolai's driver radioed from outside. 3 vehicles. Unfamiliar plates. They're maintaining position, but not parking. Nikolai touched his earpiece discreetly, leaning forward to refill Dahlia's wine glass. Unfamiliar how? ND. Unfamiliar how? Military discipline. Rotation patterns. This isn't civilian. Through the restaurant's elegant interior, Nikolai watched other diners laugh over champagne and dessert. Old New Orleans families conducting their usual theater of wealth and influence. Nothing seemed wrong, but his instincts honed through 20 years of surviving impossible odds were screaming. Stand by, he murmured. Assess, but don't engage. Dahlia looked up from her phone, smiling that perfect smile that had captivated him 6 months ago. Everything okay? Nico? Just business. You know how it is. On our anniversary? She reached across the candlelit table, her manicured fingers intertwining with his. "Can't you let someone else handle it? Just one night?" He squeezed her hand, guilt mixing with affection. "You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. You're right." But as Vesper approached their table carrying the main course, her hands trembling almost imperceptibly, Nikolai's world began its terrible collapse. She set down the silver dome with practiced grace. Her eyes never met. His service staff knew better than to make direct contact with men like Nikolai Volkov. But her hand moved with desperate speed, sliding a folded piece of paper beneath his leather menu before withdrawing the empty appetizer plates. Nikolai's gaze dropped to the note. 5 words written in shaking handwriting. "Your girlfriend set you up." The temperature in the room didn't change. The music didn't stop. Dahlia was still scrolling through her phone, completely at ease. But through those floor-to-ceiling windows, Nikolai now saw what he'd missed before. Shadows moving into tactical positions. His driver's voice crackled urgently in his earpiece. "Boss, we have movement. 6 hostiles positioning at entry points. They're not trying to hide anymore." Nikolai's hands remained steady as he lifted his wine glass. His expression never changed as he met Dahlia's eyes across the table. She looked radiant, genuinely happy, completely unaware. Or was she? He had exactly 30 seconds to decide. Kiss the woman he'd trusted with every vulnerability, or prepare for the moment when his entire empire burned down around them both. The note's second line made the choice impossible. They're moving in now. If you believe the people closest to you can become your greatest threat, like this video and comment what time you're watching. Only those who've never faced real betrayal won't understand what's coming next. When the person you love most becomes the weapon pointed at your heart, what do? Do you trust your instincts or your feelings? Do you save yourself or risk everything for a woman who might have already chosen your death? Stay with us, because what happens in the next 30 seconds will change Nikolai Volkov's life forever and reveal whether Dahlia Thorne is a victim, a villain, or something far more tragic than either. Maison Vermilion glittered like a jewel box against the New Orleans night. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across tables, where senators shared wine with oil barons, where old family fortunes mingled with new money, trying desperately to look established. The kind of place where a handshake over cognac could move millions, where whispered conversations shaped the city's hidden architecture. Nikolai had chosen it specifically for that reason. He'd arrived early, scanning exits out of habit, noting the positioning of his external security team. 3 cars stationed at strategic points around the block. His best men, alert but invisible. When Dahlia walked through the entrance at exactly 8, heads turned. Her smile when she spotted him was genuine, unguarded, in a way that still surprised him after 6 months. "You look beautiful," Nikolai said, standing to pull out her chair. "You say that every time." But she was pleased, leaning in to kiss his cheek before sitting. The evening unfolded with choreographed perfection. Wine that cost more than most cars. Appetizers that were small masterpieces of culinary art. Conversation that flowed easily between them, her gallery opening next month, his latest acquisition of waterfront property, their planned trip to Marseille in the spring. Dahlia laughed at something he said, reaching across the table to touch his hand. "No emergencies." Nikolai squeezed her fingers, meaning it. Near the kitchen entrance, Vesper watched the couple through careful glances while arranging bread baskets for another table. She'd been tracking the 3 men outside for the past 20 minutes. Professional surveillance patterns. Weapon bulges barely concealed under expensive jackets. Her hands began to shake. She knew those patterns. Had nightmares about them. The man who'd saved her life was about to be murdered, and she had seconds to decide whether her silence was worth more than his survival. The silver dome settled onto the table with barely a whisper. Vesper's hand moved beneath it, sliding the folded paper under Nikolai's menu with the practiced invisibility of someone who'd spent years learning not to be noticed. She withdrew before Dahlia even looked up from her phone. Nikolai's fingers found the note while reaching for his wine glass. He unfolded it in his lap, eyes never leaving Dahlia's face as she smiled at something on her screen. "Your girlfriend set you up. They're moving in now." His expression didn't change. The wine reached his lips smoothly, no tremor in his hand. But his mind exploded into calculation. Victor. Had to be Viktor Sokolov. His head lieutenant had been pushing too hard lately about expansion territories, about taking more aggressive positions. Or maybe Dmitri from the Eastern operations. He'd been unusually quiet during last week's briefing. How did they get to Dahlia? Money? Threats? Leverage he didn't know about? Does she know? His eyes traced her features, searching for tells. The slight tension around her mouth when she lied about where she'd been. The way her fingers tapped twice against her wine glass when she was nervous. Nothing. She looked completely at ease, which meant either she was innocent or she was better at deception than anyone he'd ever encountered. 30 seconds had passed. The note said they were moving now. Nikolai leaned forward, taking Dahlia's hand again. His voice dropped to the intimate tone reserved for lovers. "Dahlia, you're the light that guides me home through every storm." The phrase sounded romantic, poetic, even, but his security chief would recognize it immediately as Code Amber. Hostiles identified. Maintain position. Prepare for immediate extraction. Through the windows, Nikolai watched his driver's posture shift. Message received. Dahlia's smile widened. "That's beautiful, Nico. Where did that come from? Just thinking about how lucky I am." He raised his glass in a toast, buying seconds while his team repositioned. To 6 more months. And 6 more after that. Their glasses chimed together like a bell tolling. Nikolai signaled the sommelier with a casual gesture that looked like mere indulgence. The sommelier nodded, retreating toward the wine cellar. That would buy 4 minutes' time for his security to reposition from surveillance mode to defensive formation. "Champagne?" Dahlia's eyes lit up. "What's the occasion?" "You. Us. Does there need to be more?" He leaned back, forcing his shoulders to relax, his smile to reach his eyes. "Tell me about your meeting with the gallery owner. Did she agree to the exhibition space you wanted?" Dahlia launched into the story with animated gestures, describing her negotiation with the art dealer, the compromise they'd reached about wall space and lighting. Her passion was genuine, unfiltered. She'd been working toward this exhibition for months. Nikolai watched her lips move, her hands paint pictures in the air, and felt something crack inside his chest. She was either completely innocent or the most talented liar he'd ever encountered. His earpiece crackled softly. 2 minutes. We're repositioning to defensive coverage. 3 hostiles confirmed at northeast entrance, 2 at service door, 1 watching from the street. 6 total. Professional formation. They weren't planning to negotiate. "You're not listening," Dahlia said, but her tone was playful, not accusatory. "I'm sorry." Nikolai reached across the table, taking both her hands. "I'm distracted by how beautiful you look in candlelight. It's unfair, really. How am I supposed to focus on anything else?" She laughed, squeezing his fingers. "You're being unusually romantic tonight. Is that a complaint?" "Never." Her thumb traced circles on his palm. "I love seeing this side of you. The side that isn't always calculating 3 moves ahead." The champagne arrived in a bucket of ice. The sommelier presented the bottle with appropriate ceremony, pouring 2 flutes that caught the light like liquid gold. Nikolai raised his glass, counting down seconds in his head. "To unexpected blessings. To us," Dahlia echoed. 60 seconds until the doors breached. 3 years ago, Vesper had a different name. a life she'd been trying to escape when the men with kind smiles and false promises offered her restaurant work in America. She'd believed them until the van doors locked and the smiles disappeared. The holding facility was a warehouse near the docks. 18 girls crammed into a shipping container with bucket toilets and 1 bottle of water per day. They were merchandise now. Inventory waiting for transport. Vesper had been there 11 days when the shooting started. She remembered pressing herself against the metal walls, hands over her ears, praying the bullets wouldn't punch through. The container doors screeching open to reveal armed men in tactical gear. One of them had stepped forward, removing his mask. Dark hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing, an expensive suit visible beneath the body armor. "You're safe now," he'd said in accented English. "My name is Nikolai. Can you walk?" She'd nodded, legs shaking as he helped her down from the container. Around them, traffickers lay zip-tied on concrete, some bleeding, all subdued. This never happened, Nikolai had told her later, after the ambulance, after the police interviews that somehow contained no useful information. "You were never here. The men who took you don't exist anymore. Do you understand?" Oh, she'd understood. His people had created paperwork overnight. Birth certificate, social security number, work history. Vesper Rain emerged from bureaucratic systems as if she'd always existed. The job at Maison Vermilion came 3 months later. High-end, respectable, safe. A manager who asked no questions about her past. "Stay invisible," Nikolai had advised during their last meeting. "The networks have long memories. Build your life quietly." She'd done exactly that. 3 years of invisible competence, of never drawing attention, of surviving through silence, until tonight, when staying silent meant watching her savior die. Vesper moved toward table 15. Hands no longer shaking. Some debts demanded payment regardless of cost. They came through 3 entrances simultaneously, moving with the coordinated precision of military operators, concealed weapons, expensive suits, faces that blended perfectly with Maison Vermilion's wealthy clientele. Nikolai saw them before they cleared the doorways. His security chief's voice crackled urgently. "Boss, they're moving early. We're not in position. No time." Nikolai's hand shot across the table, grabbing Dahlia's wrist. "Get down." He flipped the table forward in one violent motion, champagne and crystal exploding across marble as the heavy oak became a shield. Dahlia screamed as he pulled her behind it, his other hand already drawing the compact Glock from his ankle holster. The restaurant erupted into chaos. Screaming patrons dove for cover. A senator's wife shrieked. Chairs overturned as people scrambled toward exits that were already blocked. The first shooter cleared his weapon suppressed. Professional and Nikolai put 2 rounds center mass before the man could acquire his target. The body dropped behind an overturned chair. "Stay down," Nikolai commanded Dahlia, whose face had gone white with shock. 2 more hostiles converged from the right. Nikolai fired 3 times, controlled bursts, forcing them into cover behind marble pillars. Return fire chipped stone inches from his head. His earpiece crackled with gunfire and shouting. His external team was engaged, pinned down by additional shooters outside. 8-1, maybe worse. A 4th hostile appeared from the kitchen entrance, weapon tracking toward Nikolai's position. He rolled left, came up firing, caught the man in the shoulder. The hostile staggered but didn't drop, training overriding pain. Glass shattered as rounds punched through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Somewhere, a woman was sobbing. The air smelled of gunpowder and expensive perfume. Nikolai's magazine was half empty. He had 1 spare. Against professionals who'd planned this ambush down to the second. Dahlia grabbed his arm, eyes wide with terror. "Nico, what's happening?" "Later." He ejected the partial magazine, slammed in a fresh one. "Can you run?" She nodded, trembling. "Then get ready." The kitchen doors burst open with enough force to crack the decorative molding. Viktor Sokolov emerged through the smoke and chaos, flanked by 6 armed men in tactical gear. Relief flooded through Nikolai, his most trusted lieutenant, arriving with backup exactly when needed. "Viktor!" Northeast corner. 3 hostiles. But Viktor's men weren't moving toward the shooters pinning Nikolai down. They were turning their weapons toward the shattered windows, toward the street where Nikolai's external security team was fighting to break through. The realization hit like ice water. Viktor's reinforcements opened fire not on the hit crew, but on Nikolai's own men. Muzzle flashes lit up the restaurant's ruined elegance as bullets chewed through the remaining windows, cutting down the security team from behind. "No," Nikolai breathed. Viktor stepped over broken glass and overturned chairs, his expensive suit immaculate despite the carnage. His weapon hung casually at his side, not even raised. He didn't need it. "Hello, Nikolai." Viktor's voice carried the same calm professionalism it always had. "I apologize for the venue. You have such particular taste in restaurants. It seemed wasteful to ruin this one, but sacrifices must be made." The remaining hostile shooters stopped firing. They moved into formation around Viktor like pieces on a chessboard, falling into predetermined positions. Nikolai's grip tightened on his Glock, but 8 weapons were now trained on him and Dahlia. "You," the word came out barely above a whisper. "How long? Does it matter?" Viktor gestured to his men. "Secure the perimeter. No one leaves. No police. No witnesses who can identify us. This wasn't an assassination attempt." The scope was suddenly, horrifyingly clear. This was a complete takeover. Viktor hadn't come to kill Nikolai in a firefight. He'd come to dismantle everything Nikolai had built, piece by piece, starting with his security infrastructure and ending with his life. "Why?" Nikolai demanded. Viktor smiled. "Because Louisiana deserves better architecture. And you, old friend, have become structurally unsound." Nikolai turned to Dahlia, who was pressed against the overturned table, mascara streaking down her face. Her voice broke. "Nico, I didn't know it would be tonight. I swear I didn't know, but you knew something." The words came out cold, surgical. "How long?" "Dahlia." She was sobbing now, hands shaking. 2 weeks. They came to me 2 weeks ago, with photographs, evidence. They said, "She's been remarkably cooperative," Viktor interrupted, circling closer like a predator savoring the kill. "Though she did require convincing." He pulled a manila envelope from his jacket, tossing it onto the broken glass between them. Photographs spilled out. Crime scene images. A body. Documentation with official seals. "Recognize him?" Viktor asked. "Pastor Marcus Devereaux. Beloved community leader. Voice of the people. Champion of the poor. Died in a hit-and-run 15 years ago that was never solved." Nikolai's blood turned to ice. "Except it wasn't a hit-and-run," Viktor continued. "It was you. Contract killing to secure waterfront territory. Your very first major operation. The foundation of everything you built." Dahlia's voice came out strangled. "They showed me everything. Bank records, witness statements, forensic evidence. They said if it went public, every family in Louisiana would declare war. The Devereaux congregation alone would burn your empire down. So you chose to help them kill me instead?" "No." She reached for him. Desperate. They said a quick death was mercy. They said exposure would mean months of war, torture, everything you built destroyed while you watched. They said this was the only way to preserve your legacy, to let you die with dignity instead of being torn apart. Viktor smiled. "She thought she was saving you, Nikolai. Isn't that touching? Victor raised his weapon with the casualness of a man signing paperwork. Any last words? Something architectural, perhaps? Nikolai met his eyes, refusing to flinch. We'll see. Victor's finger tightened on the trigger. Dahlia moved. She launched herself from behind the table, red silk flying, putting her body between Nikolai and the gun. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Dahlia's body jerked backward, slamming into Nikolai as the round punched through her chest. He caught her as she fell, his hands immediately slick with blood. No, Dahlia, no. His voice cracked as he lowered her to the floor. Her eyes found his, already losing focus. Blood bubbled at her lips. I thought I was protecting you. Don't talk, stay with me. But he could see the wound. Center mass. Fatal. They lied. She whispered. Victor. He showed me everything. Said it came from Grigory Marcos. Nikolai's world stopped. Grigory's dead. No. She coughed. Blood spraying. He's alive. He wanted your empire intact. Just under new management. Victor's management. Her hand found his face, fingers leaving red streaks. I chose the quick death. Thought it was mercy. Thought I was saving your legacy from something worse. You should have told me. Would you have believed me? Her smile was heartbreaking. Against Victor? Your trusted friend? Her hand fell away. Her eyes fixed on something beyond him. Dahlia Thorne died in a red dress on a restaurant floor, believing until the end that her betrayal had been love. Victor chambered another round. Touching. Now, where were we? Nikolai looked up from Dahlia's body, and Victor saw something in his eyes that made him hesitate. Not grief, not surrender, pure, calculated rage. If you believe loyalty isn't just a word but a promise, then you understand why you can't miss what comes next. Subscribe now, or risk missing the full story behind every betrayal. The explosion came from outside Nikolai's secondary security team. The ones Victor didn't know about. The ones who answered only to Nikolai's oldest friend in Baton Rouge. Victor's men turned toward the sound. Nikolai moved like a surgeon, precise and without mercy. 2 rounds into Victor's knee, dropping him. 3 more shots into the hostiles nearest the door. His remaining magazine emptied into the chaos, and then his men were flooding through the shattered windows. Tactical gear and overwhelming firepower turning the tide in seconds. Victor lay bleeding on the marble, clutching his destroyed leg. You can't. Grigory will. Nikolai stood over him, Dahlia's blood still wet on his hands. Tell Grigory, I'm coming for him. Tell him, in hell. The final shot echoed through Maison Vermilion. Vesper slipped out through the kitchen before the police arrived. She found an envelope in her locker the next morning. New papers, new city, new name. A note in elegant handwriting. Debt paid. Stay safe. She never saw New Orleans again. The funeral was private. Nikolai buried Dahlia in the garden cemetery she'd loved, beneath magnolias that would bloom white each spring. The headstone read simply, She chose love, however broken. His lieutenants, the ones who survived Victor's purge, gathered in his study 3 days later. Nikolai stood at the window, watching rain streak the glass. Grigory Marcos is alive, he said quietly, and he's been building something while we thought him dead. Victor was just the opening move. Grigory? Victor was just the opening move. What do we do, boss? Nikolai turned from the window. His eyes carried something new, not the cold calculation of before, but something harder. Tempered. We rebuild, but differently. Victor nearly destroyed us because I trusted perfectly. believed in absolute control. He looked at Dahlia's photograph on his desk. Some betrayals wear the face of love. Some enemies know exactly where we break. So we build an empire that bends instead. That survives the breaks. He was still the architect. But now he was building with different materials, wisdom earned through blood, love, and the terrible cost of both. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you believe that the deadliest betrayals are the ones wrapped in love, and that sometimes the person trying to save you becomes the weapon that destroys you both, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Only those who've never had to choose between loyalty and survival won't understand what Nikolai and Dahlia lost in that restaurant.